or on this computer.
Yep.
I'm going to.
I guess, welcome everyone. Thanks for attending this Friday afternoon, October 1st. My name is Kristie, and the title of my presentation is The Meaning of Words, Learnings from Healthcare. First off, we're going to talk about all the new things that are happening with the IDL SIG and the STC. Upcoming, we have, in a couple of weeks, on a Wednesday, we have a talk by Jack Molisana. We could edit that out. I attended his presentation in the summer when he was speaking to one of the other chapters, and I found it really interesting. Attend if you have a chance. He's also just a great resource and a fun person. Ruth Ann will be speaking at the next First Friday at 5. She'll be talking about diverse roles and common goals, working with multiple generations in the workplace. She'll be leading the presentation with a discussion to follow. Day after, on the 6th, we have Lee Gurin.
Beautiful.
Thank you. About Zoom proofing your presentation, which is probably what we should be doing now.
I know we need her right now. All right.
Before I do this, it'll be just in time for Ruth Ann. And in December, we will have the TechCom Nightmare Before Christmas, which I'm intrigued. Is that Vicky's presentation?
So why would you say that?
Maybe because I saw you post that a couple months ago. So that's the only reason I thought it might be you.
So I am a participant, and I came up with, as a group, we came up with the idea, but I was kind of championing this. So we're supposed to bring practitioners and students as well, supposed to bring your nightmare, your technical communication nightmare, and everyone will have a chance to present their nightmare, and then students will be the judges. And there are several, I don't have them in front of me, but there are several criteria by which we will be judged. One of the things is, the dollar value and the number of people. And did you anticipate that this nightmare would be as bad as it was, and that kind of thing. So there will be fabulous prizes. And of course, the respect and sympathy of everyone in the room. But we thought it would be kind of fun because, in technical communication, it's very rare that things go badly. Things usually go well, and we all, technical writer is always one of those top 100 jobs because we make our own schedules and we have big projects and we deal with a lot of smart people. But every now and then something goes terribly wrong. And so we thought it would be fun to talk about those times and then do it as a contest, because we get CAA points for contests.
If I can just add that there will be a description of the contest in our next newsletter that should be out yesterday. So, yeah, watch for that. Plus, there'll start being a lot more noise on Slack on the IDL SIG channel.
Okay, great. On a side note, who had issues with Slack yesterday? I did. It was down. A bunch of people had it down. Yeah. I'm glad it was just me. And then upcoming, this is new. We have the knowledge exchange. We had, I think there was the first one last Friday, I believe. It's going to be the last Monday of each month at 1 p.m. Eastern. Then we have people who are veterans in the industry will be providing feedback and talking. Believe you have to have a login to sign in. No, you don't.
Well,
where is it?
It's supposed to be open to anybody, not just SCC members.
But the link's nowhere to be found.
Yeah, the link is nowhere to be found until you're actually on. Like, you have to go to the page that describes it that day. And I'll complain to the right people.
Yeah,
because I'm good at that.
Your superpower.
I polite This
Feedback?
opportunities to learn. I had trouble with it as well.
I did too. If it wasn't for Anita, I would never have made it.
Thank you, Anita, for me too. And then also there is the Knowledge Exchange new member meetup. Depending on your definition of second Monday in each month, it's either the second or the third Monday in each month for that. Sometimes I thought it was third Monday. I'm sorry, on Friday, depending on where you are. So if you are in Eastern time, 12 o'clock Eastern or 3 o'clock Eastern on Mondays or Fridays, which would be helpful for those people across the country. More information is there. I wish we had better editing skills there. So about me, I would like to acknowledge that I work, live, and play on the traditional ancestral and unceded territories of the Coast Salish people, the Squamish, the Tsleil-Waututh, and the Musqueam people. I am a technical communication student at Simon Fraser University in BC in Canada, and I have experience in science and health education and communication. My purpose of my talk, first off, this was originally a combination of several other talks I have given, but through the technical communication lens. In early September, I received an email from a former team member that made me reconsider my existing presentation. It made me pause and consider if my audience, you guys, and I were going to be speaking the same language. And that's a big pun intended, as my talk is the meaning of words. I wasn't sure if our shared love of words was going to be enough. I will share part of that email with you later. During the complete revamping of my talk, I informally interviewed several people I knew in the tech industry, had to learn way more tech terms than I had planned to learn, went down several research and blog article posts, rabbit holes of all sorts, and I'm still figuring that out. My mind still had to connect my thoughts to my original presentation title, The Meaning of Words. Not the process I would suggest you write a presentation. And here are my thoughts to date, and please bear with my any bumps. So the purpose of my presentation is to discuss the meaning of several common words, consider your audience differently, hear my experience with creating better products, and consider a different way of looking at some of the familiar words we know of. And that fourth point will occur if we have sufficient time at the end. Hopefully we do. So this is where you get your pen and paper or writing utensil or computer up. And we're going to have about a minute to do this. How would you define the following words? Stubborn, audience, and treatment.
I'm assuming, Kristie, that this is a no wrong answer. It's just what the words mean to you.
Yeah, what the words mean to you. How would you define it? If I said, how would you define the word stubborn? Please don't use me in that definition.
Or me.
We have about, I'm going to give you another about 5 seconds. Okay, with that in mind, we are going to completely, oh, sorry, not yet. Sorry, my brain fart. If you are interested, I would like you to share what some of these words mean to you. Is anyone willing to speak, talk, share?
Sure, of course. For me, because I've got a long period of sobriety, treatment means something to me way different than anybody else, because it always is to do with recovery and dealing with addictions and stuff like that. Audience are the people who hear my message, or the people that I think I'm talking to. And then stubborn is, to me, determined, unyielding, not listening.
Anyone else want to share?
I would like to be next.
Sure, please do.
Okay, so Melissa, all of my OCD went crazy when you went backwards up the list. Just a little feedback there. Stubborn, or maybe let's go in alphabetical order. Audience. I just put readers and viewers. You know, I think of technical writing. The audience is whoever's going to consume my content. And then stubborn, I put stuck on purpose.
Ooh,
Okay. Okay.
And then for treatment, I put solution.
Okay. Perfect. I will say there was a reason for my placement of these words, not to mess up Vicky's OCD alphabetization. It was on purpose. Is there another one last person who'd like to share?
Kristie, are you keeping an eye on the chat? Are you able to? Because some people are answering.
Yeah, we're putting it in the chat.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. We just didn't warn
I did not
you.
know that.
Do you know where?
Perfect.
It's at the bottom.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm using 2 screens, and so making my life interesting. We have audience, people who hear what someone says, how we meant to treatment, how we are meant to treat someone. Stubborn, someone who is strong-willed. I like that. Can someone watch the chat? That'd be great too. Nice, I think that's Anne. Nice, restraint on purpose. Is that stubborn? Maybe. Resistance to change, inflexible. Perfect. Yeah. So we have lots of variety of those sorts of things. We're going to circle back to those words later. I'm going to switch gears completely. I can figure out how to, there, perfect. So a question, how do we create better products? As technical communication, how do we create better products? Anyone? Jump. Vicky. You just popped up on my screen.
Well, so Laura put get feedback from audience, and I say measurement. We need to measure success. We have to have something that's measurable.
Okay, perfect. Okay. In the last 13 months, I have been entrenched in technical communication courses, webinars, presentations, readings. They all talk about one thing: knowing my audience. How is a technical communicator? How the technical communicator is the user's advocate. I also learned about the passive voice. I am not perfect with that. And
you also learned about the, sorry, can you just repeat that slower?
The word passive voice.
Oh, passive voice. Yeah.
Passive voice was learned by Kristie.
Yes.
Or by zombies.
She does not do that well, though. And the term heuristics, my new favorite word. My common placement may have improved slightly, I hope. And for this, let's hope so. And for this presentation, the audience and user will be the same word, okay? We think about our audience first, of course. What are our audience needs? And how do we get to know our audience? Anyone like to jump up? How have you learned about your audience?
That's a tough one for me because I don't really have any contact with the audience, meaning the customers. I only have contact with the internal people, and I'm sure there's some bias there.
You think so?
I mean, I get input from the engineers and marketing material, but actually most of the people I get feedback from do have engineering degrees. Our audience that uses the machinery are more people in the field, so they probably do not have an engineering degree or any college degree.
In my career, I've never been able to get access to the end user in anything I've ever done, because management has always said, "Oh no, we don't do that." I know the audience. I will tell you. And as you said, bias is just rampant.
Of course.
It's so frustrating.
So when I write for the web, I try to be able to use Google Analytics because you do get direct feedback. Now, you don't know whether they like it or not, but you know whether or not they actually find the page, because sometimes getting help is not a matter of searching, it's a matter of finding, right? Everyone likes to find, no one likes to search. So what pages are they finding? How long are they staying on those pages? If it's too long, they've probably just left the window open and gone on and done something else. If it's a relatively short-ish amount of time, they've found their answer and they've gone on. And so for me, Google Analytics has been really, really helpful for when my audience, for example, if I'm writing for marketing or I'm writing something that's going to be used by the end consumer, which I'll never, ever talk to, Google Analytics helps.
So I guess that answers my follow-up question is, have there been any challenges? And it sounds like you guys have a lot. No access to your audience, bias with the people who provide you with information. With the information, the courses, all the material that sort of has been filtered to me over the last 13 months, we talk about user research. And I guess Google Analytics might be coming in there too. The audience analysis, user interviews, we find out about stuff with our user testing at the end, and we use personas to help keep us focused with our audience and their needs. Is there anything else you can think of that I'm missing maybe?
Surveys?
Would that be under audience?
User interviews or audience analysis,
research, sort of that big realm.
I have a natural distrust of surveys and user feedback because in my own experience, the only time that I've actually filled out how was your experience, unless I really, really, really like because I just got a survey from my hairdresser, right? I really, really, really like my hairdresser. And so I gave him a 5. But in general, like if I'm just buying something from Amazon, I hardly ever give feedback unless I really hate it. Like if I like it, I'm just kind of like, you're not hearing from me. But if I really, really hate it and I want to rip them a new one, I will respond to the surveys. I don't know if you guys had the same experience, but I think surveys can be skewed. Oh, the other thing I wanted to say about surveys, we took a survey for the Washington, D.C. chapter, and we asked our membership, what did they want? Like, what kind of meetings did they want? What kind of content did, what did they want to learn about? That kind of stuff. And the next year in our planning, we gave them exactly what they said they wanted, and nobody showed up. So Vicky doesn't trust surveys.
So my next question was going to be, what kind of, once again, challenges. But I guess, has your work with these sorts of things changed any of your assumptions about your audience? And I guess I would speak to Vicky's conversation about some of the information when you do user research, it's not really what your user wants.
Only what they say they want, right?
Yeah, what they want was not what they need. These methods are really great, informative and consultative ways to get to know your audience. Obviously, we've seen there's lots of challenges with them though too. We're going to completely pivot now, and we're going to talk about my role in healthcare education and research. Since 2014, I have worked in this area, and I am not a doctor, a nurse, a professor, or a PhD candidate. I am a patient. I am a healthcare user, and I am an expert. My professional designation is my life with several complex chronic diseases and my experiences with them and the healthcare system. My words are my tool. I'm a patient. With my involvement, I use the word patient educator and patient partner for my roles, but there's other kinds of names you would have seen. You'll see if you search online. I believe in the US, it is patients as partners, I think is a common term, but patient volunteer, patient-oriented research, education, persons with lived experience, community partner, health partner are quite common ones. Patients are considered the experts in their condition, their experiences, and also their needs. As an expert, I have worked as a teacher and mentor and speaker. I have worked since 2014 as a teacher and a mentor to healthcare students at UBC, the University of British Columbia in BC, with healthcare students. I speak to students in presentations. I also let them practice interviewing skills with me, so as I am a teacher there. As an expert, I've also worked collaboratively as a researcher, curriculum developer, and a hackathon planner and judge. A researcher and curriculum developer, I am more experienced with those working on big teams. I am helping to create healthcare courses at UBC. As a researcher, I'm involved in public-facing research in healthcare-related fields. And my new fun project that I'm working on is a hackathon. So does anyone not know what a hackathon is?
Well, you could define it for us and just make sure we're all on the same page with it.
Hackathon is usually sort of comes from the tech industry, as far as I understand, and it's really bringing together a group of people and trying to solve a problem, trying to solve a problem, whether it's with code or trying to figure out, for example, how do you create code or a program or an app that does something for the greater good? You sort of pool the resources, you hack a problem. And for this event, I will also be one of the judges. Much of my work is very involved and collaborative, meaning my concerns and advice are incorporated into the project. I have also been consulted to provide feedback on public-facing documents. I act as a copy editor, and I participate in research studies. Nothing about us without us is a fairly, I think Vicky has used that before in one of her presentations, I believe. It really comes from the disability rights movement in the 1990s. But now many other organizations use it to sort of really ask that full and direct participation of those impacted by those policies or processes are involved. You can't create a policy for us if we're not involved.
Oh, sure we can. We know what you mean, Kristie.
We can, but are they successful? That is the process. My involvement, work with me, Rocky, please. My involvement brings another perspective to the conversation. It provides insight into the words and their meaning, and also makes space for empathy and compassion. Perspective, really. I acknowledge my privileges. Although I'm really well educated and I speak English generally pretty clearly, I don't speak under that umbrella as an academic. I speak as a healthcare user. With languages, I force my teams to consider what words mean and how they can build bridges or divide the users or other people on the team. And with empathy and compassion, because I am there, I am present, and I am also a storyteller. My stories are personal, but my experiences are universal. And my products that I improve are current and future healthcare practitioners and researchers. I improve healthcare policies, research projects, and public-facing documents. These opportunities really allow others to see how I use words, what words mean to me and to other patient partners on the team, my motivations, the dynamic nature of health, and hopefully they give a better understanding of what my needs as a user really are. And I will quote Stephen Covey, the American author, educator and author of The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, to summarize really what I'm trying to explain, to summarize. They are listening to learn and not to respond. Hopefully that's the takeaway my students and my team members have when they engage with me. Here are a few examples of my work. On the top, I don't know if you can read this. It is It says, Kristie, what and why? It is it is a project that I've worked on over the last few years with UBC. It's part of a video that is part of the library of patient and caregiver videos that is available for student learning across Canada. These videos bring up important conversations and topics, including communication and patient-centered care. Is patient-centered care, for those who are unaware, it is really a word. It's sort of a more, I guess, a new term. It's a big push with the patient community, is to really make the patient a center of their care. So the previous sort of the standard way of care is the doctor is right, the doctor tells you what to do. It's very paternalistic relationship, and patient-centered care really brings in that patient and helps them be more independent in their care, as they are an active participant in their care. And so with this question I had is, sorry, with this video, I really asked the viewers, and also it's a question I asked my students, is what is the difference between what and why? How do you use those words to drive conversation and get information you're trying out of your patients, your future patients? And I think that this could also apply to across the board. When you ask a child, for example, what, you know, a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old, and there's an accident on the floor, what happened here? Versus, why did you do that? You'll get very different answers. The dish is still broken, but you'll get a different answer. And those different questions come at different times in relationships, and they also yield different answers, and they can provide different paths of treatment and how you relate to someone. Next is the hacking pain. That's the hackathon I'm working on. It's with a local health authority in Vancouver, and we are inviting doctors, nurses, health practitioners, researchers, and also industry specialists in the Vancouver area to participate in hacking chronic pain, bringing suggestions for how do you improve the lives of those who live with chronic pain. COVID's risks and in BC's neighborhoods. I was part of a research team based out of Simon Fraser that mapped the risk and vulnerability of developing COVID-19 and those who may experience secondary impacts of COVID, for example, loneliness or the loss of income in BC's neighborhoods. Our maps probably are a little slightly outdated now, but they provided new insights into the conversation about how to manage the pandemic in BC and where policy and the public health efforts should be focused now and in the future to best support these different kinds of communities. The lead principal investigator on this team is someone who makes the news regularly. So she's very active in medical geography. It's very interesting. And the last but not least is a program that I've been involved with since 2014, the Interdisciplinary Health Mentorship Program at UBC. It really, I guess, I'm involved as a patient educator, someone who lives with chronic health diseases, but the mentor could also be someone who is a caregiver as well. We work together for over a year, and we meet regularly. The topics we have, the meetings have general topics, but the conversations are really unstructured, and they allow the students to learn from me, but also from their peers. Our conversations are really deep or pretty casual, and we really problem solve together. These are really big collaborative projects that help ensure that we are all speaking the same language. And the meanings of words. I will back to the beginning of my presentation, I asked you these words, and I put them in the order because I hope that it would, what is it? Prime you, I guess is the word. Stubborn, audience, and treatment. I ask these words because they're meaningful to me. As a patient, I've been called stubborn many, many times. I ask questions. I am not always quiet when I'm with a practitioner. I want to know more. I'm not satisfied if the answer is go look on Google. I want to know more. And I'm called stubborn because I don't give up. And that sort of language is harmful. It diminishes my value and my questions. And it does impact the person on the other end. I have chosen to use the word persistent. I am persistent with my health. I am definitely stubborn in many ways. That is 100% true. But with my health, I am persistent. My persistence has only helped me get proper diagnoses and treatments. My stubbornness hasn't. But most of my healthcare practitioners would never refer to me as persistent. And that language, I think for me, it implies more about them than it does about me. And I chose the word audience, for one, because we're technical communicators and we have to speak to our audience, and that's really important. But also, for me, is that as a patient, I haven't been heard. I am the user, I am the audience for the treatments I seek, my appointments. My voice has not been heard. Where is my voice? Who is speaking to me? I am the audience, I am that user, the healthcare user. And if the audience isn't in the center of that relationship, whose relationship is it? What kind of relationship does that mean? And finally, the word treatment. You guys were all pretty close to what I was looking for treatments, but I really think that for me, this word sort of comes full circle for me. Was a conversation I had a while ago with one of the students I was mentoring. We were having a group discussion. We were discussing a case study from one of the students. And I'm usually pretty mild in my conversations. I guess I do get emotional, but I don't sort of outwardly speak my frustrations. But I was getting pissed off at this student. I was like, you are a smart person. What are you talking about? I was just like, I was furious with this student because they were making no sense in my mind. We changed directions and we sort of moved on from that frustration. But I reached out to the student later because I was like, we're more than halfway through our year. We have to figure out how to resolve this, and next time cannot be uncomfortable. So we connected, and we met for an hour and a half. But it wasn't until the hour mark, and I was looking at my clock because I was, I made note of this. That I said, what do you think treatment means to you? And they said, it means a cure. And I said, no, it doesn't.
Right.
No, it doesn't. It means management and care of a patient. Like, it means different ways of helping the person. And this is a medical student. Brilliant student in so many ways, but her education had taught her that treatment meant you cure the person. And I was taken aback because this is a word, we can talk about using client versus customer versus patient, all the little nuanced words, but I didn't think that treatment would be a word that we would have to discuss and, figure it out. But once we actually had that conversation, we realized we were actually on the same page. We agreed with every single thing, but we were just using the word we were using. We were considering different words, different definitions, and that resulted in so much tension and so much frustration in our relationship. And speaking about it and really drilling down, but to get to that point, we would have never gotten to that point if it wasn't for hours of relationship building and that small little conversation in that minute conversation we had big conversation, I suppose. And I think it was a complete eye-opening experience for both of us. But for her especially, that the words really matter. Words, if you're not on the same page with your patient, your user, with all kinds of words, you're speaking a different language. And the words are really important as well. We have a couple minutes, so I'm going to ask, this is another project that I do with my students. And if I'm going to throw it out there, maybe we can approach it a different time. Or we can continue after I finish my presentation, but it's my noun activity. I asked my students to think of I asked my students to consider who they are without their nouns. COVID brought to light some of the implications of using nouns to describe ourselves, but I asked them who they are, what's their identity. Nouns or labels can change with health conditions during a pandemic or different times in our lives, but we are stuck to our labels. We like our labels. And my question is that if you can no longer run, who are you? If you're no longer a mother, what are you? If you don't use that word mother or teacher or writer or author or cook, painter, what are you? How do you describe yourself without using those words? Can you do that? Melissa, you keep sticking in my main screen. So if you would willing to share, that's wonderful, or we can continue on and we can come back to this later. But I think usually I give my students a month and a half to consider this question. So no pressure.
Well, no, it's funny because in the, I don't know why I keep popping up on your main monitor, but unless I'm jiggling or something like that, but just having a discussion with my husband and actually making jokes about it because we are very sacrilegious, but the effort, Vicki has a lot to do with this because she's raised our awareness of diversity issues. And so in Vernon, where I live, we have a sizable population of people who are experiencing homelessness. And that's the way we're supposed to talk about it. We're not supposed to say homeless anymore. We're the homeless and lump them all in together. And so I think I would approach the same. I could do away with my nouns if I could get to work in a whole bunch of verbs. And I'm really a verby person, right? Like I'm a person who does art. I am a person who writes. I am a person who gets really enthusiastic about stuff and volunteers a lot. And, so I don't need to stick to saying I'm a volunteer or I'm a wife or a mother.
Maybe we
but
can
I
step back
do
a little
mother.
further. If you're not, what does writing mean to you, I guess?
Yeah, I could say I'm a person who expresses myself well.
Okay.
Or
yep.
What's the articulately?
You're expressive.
Yes, I express. There you go.
Yeah.
I express all over the place. It really drives a lot of people crazy.
I think but that's what I'm drilling down to is that
right.
If you, I guess maybe I should include verbs now, but like if you're not a writer, you don't write, you're an expressive person. But you can be expressive, as you said, in so many different ways. You don't have to be a writer to express yourself. And I think that's really valuable because when we lose part of our identity with different things, we have to sort of find meaning in different ways. And I think that's really challenging. If I was a runner, but I can no longer run, but that running is a really big part of my identity. I have been a runner like 28 years. That's a lot of my life. And I can't do that. So what am I? Like, how do I identify? What does that mean for me? And so for me, I've had to really drill down to what that means and why do I run? What is the purpose of my running? And is that meaning that word runner, what does that mean to me? It means freedom, it means calmness, it means adrenaline rushes and endorphins. It means all these really wonderful things, but how can I get that in if I'm not running? What does that mean if I take that next step and remove that? And the same with you, for example, with your expressiveness. Why are you expressive? What does that mean to you? And those sorts of really complicated terms, I think they're really valuable to consider. And then on the flip side, if I can run once a month, does that still make me a runner? Who decides if I'm a runner or not? Is it me? What's the meaning of running? What's the meaning of the word runner? What does the meaning of the word writer? Is someone who writes bathroom stall gibberish a writer? Why not? Why can't that person be considered a poet if they write bathroom poems? Who determines what that word means? If you only cook on the weekends or once a month, does that still make you a cook or does not make you a cook? Those are my questions, is the meaning of those words. And when you're working with an audience, those kinds of conversations are complex. I don't think there's an answer, but those are ways to consider the words differently that we sort of take for granted. The words we use help define our beliefs and our values and how we view our bodies and ourselves. What does health mean to you? Am I healthy with my chronic conditions? Is health a state of mind or a physical state? Who decides? What does success mean for someone in chronic pain like me? How do I look at success if I know tomorrow will be painful? What does success in the bigger world of my life mean? And very simplistically is, how does grief and anxiety displayed? What does grief mean? What does anxiety mean? We see someone in the grocery store having a fit. Are they angry? Probably. Are they anxious and scared? Possibly. What is anxiety? How do we display anxiety? What does grief look like? Do you have to lose someone to have grief? No. And I think that's been well established in the last year and a half, that grief does not need to mean death. But what does grief look like? And what does that mean for someone who is 50, 70, 25? How does that process? Those are really complicated words. So when you're working with people, this is obviously healthcare related, but knowing that these words are really complicated and they're all individual, and you have to listen. You have to listen to learn, and to experience is hard. But I think it's really, really important. Before I talk to the next slide, I'll just ask, is someone difficult, or are they in a difficult situation? Is someone in distress or distressing? How we choose to label those words on ourselves, on our friends, and in conversations really dictate how we communicate, our relationship building, and how we build trust with the person who is trying to help us, the people around us. Those are the things that I really focus on with my students and in my courses with my students. This is a beautiful, I think it's a beautiful drawing my students did a few years ago with my health mentorship. These are all the words that were really meaningful to them over the whole year we worked with. The words are from the bottom, how do I go backwards? Choice, trust, sharing expertise, partnership, hope, communication, motivation, values. And at the bottom is resilience. For privacy, I cut off their names, which were down with the roots. And then what and why, as that's something important to me. So these are the words that they sort of, after a whole year, were really, really meaningful to them. But this is the answer they came up for the word motivation. Motivation is what gets your patient out of bed every day. What are their main ambitions? What are the expectations? How did your patient see their individual journey progressing, and how will you help them achieve their goals? Ultimately, understanding an individual's motivation in life is integral to understanding how they will approach their healthcare decisions. We all have different answers to those questions, and that is challenging. So there is no right answer, there's no wrong answer, but appreciating that everyone has different motivations in their healthcare can help drive different conversations and different paths. And it ultimately, in my mind, it builds a lot of trust, which gets you to the next part of the relationship. Getting them to do what you want them to do. Or if we're looking at a technical communication document, get them to do that thing you want them to do, like do that properly. And I will read over for those. This is the email that my student sent me a few weeks ago. That sort of changed where I was going in this presentation. Throughout the summer, I worked as a clerk for a health authority at their largest vaccination clinic. The clinic closed just a few days ago, and I'm reminiscing about the fantastic experience I had working with all the various healthcare workers who came together during this time of need. The great immunizers, the ones who were patient, empathetic, and would spend the extra minute with an individual to get to know them better. I felt like they embodied everything you guided my group to be. As a student who hopes to work in healthcare in the future, you were my first introduction to what it is truly like to be on the other side of healthcare. And I'll carry everything I have learned with me in the future. Throughout our many hours of unstructured time together in the past year, me, the user and the teacher, I asked my students lots of questions, and I told them stories. I never ever asked them to be patient or empathetic. I never used those words. They learned the meaning of those words through my words and my stories. And as you can see in this case, my student was able to apply her learning in real life. They really learned the power of words, and that sometimes that meanings are really complicated. And my question to you guys, over to you, is are you and your audience speaking the same language? How are you making sure everyone is using the same definition? I can see there's a mistake there, sorry. Are you directly participating with your audience through co-design or co-creation? Have you ever tried co-designing with your audience? And the next slide is questions. So I'm going to open it up. Has anyone co-created with anyone in their team before? No?
As far as customers, no, I can't.
No?
Almost,
No?
almost my entire career was working one-to-one with the customers. I started in a software company, and it was a very young company, very new company, and our customers were as much our designers and requirements specialists. So that I learned very early on, if you don't listen to the people who have to use this stuff, you're going to fail. So it seems odd to me to be away from and not being able to walk up to a customer or call a customer and say, did this work for you? Does this make sense? So this has given me a whole new perspective on other kinds of writing that has to go on.
Yeah. The research I did for this really had to, I'm really entrenched in the words of the healthcare industry. And so I had to learn the co-design, the co-creation words that the software industry uses to figure out. It took me a long time to track those words down. So yeah, it sounds like you did a lot of really great co-creation to create successful projects, Marcia. Were there any challenges with that?
One of the funny ones was, this is back when programmers were demigods, and we would bring a customer complaint to someone and say, this doesn't work well for them. And they were like, but it's really good code. And we're like, yeah, but it's really bad product. And somebody finally came up with the right phrase.
Mhm.
No users, no jobs.
Ooh,
Yes.
ouch.
And
That
that
works.
brought the perspective of, if your audience isn't happy, you're not doing your job well enough. And you have to listen to them. You always have to ask, and you have to listen and give them the feedback. So it laid my foundations very early. And it's got me this far, so it's good.
Yeah. I'm writing that down. I'm going to use that in the future. No users, no job.
And you can,
I'm not-
no patients, no jobs, no customers, no jobs.
no
Well,
patients
yeah.
wouldn't be a bad thing, though, I think.
You
But,
can-
no
No
patients might not be a bad
Oh,
thing.
okay. If everybody was healthy, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very young. I worked in the retail
Mhm.
side of things, and it was very much a case. Well, and as a consumer now, sometimes I get really irritated when I see, especially when I see staff yakking with each other,
Mm.
when I'm standing there wanting to ask a question. You know, it's like, how dare you keep talking? I'm here, I'm a customer. So yeah, some people forget that that's the bottom line of what we're doing, what they're doing.
You're the user right there. You're the audience. Help me figure out how to buy which X, Y, and Z I should buy.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I just go all Karen.
Maybe not
Poor
completely.
Karen. Poor Karens in the world.
Well,
Have your
fortunately,
name hijacked. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, fortunately, we have no Karens on the line, so that's good.
Luckily, yes.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm sure that's not going to be a popular name in the next few years for bringing children. So it sounds like we only have Marcia, who has really done a lot of co-design in her life. From what I can tell online, there's a lot of great articles about the benefits of co-design, and not a whole lot of examples. Not a lot of strong examples in the tech comm industry. I'm still sorting through that big mess of articles I've gone through and websites and blog posts.
I don't know, because I read a lot of Nielsen Norman user
Mhm.
experience stuff. And I think they co-design, like if you do good user testing, I believe that is co-designing. And you keep, it's iterating.
Yeah, it's really. It's I think from everything I've read, like the agile environment really allows for that sort of iterative process, and you're bringing in that user a lot. I can tell you that a lot of the tech I use, I'm not sure if there was ever a user that was considered to begin with. So that's my experience. But I think that it's, if we're just looking at tech, but if we're looking at other kinds of projects, I think somewhere like 50% of the Fortune 500 have some sort of user co-design involved. So I think that's wonderful. I realize we are at the top of the clock. So you can stop recording maybe.